Hello once again, Ronald, and welcome back to Neverwinter Nights Enhanced Edition and the second video of my little explanation of things for those who have never played this game before or haven't touched D&D. If you've touched D&D, you kind of know how to handle things for this, what I'm going to talk about here. But for the larger majority of people that haven't, I'm going to go over the basics of character generation. I went over a class in my last video, now I'm going to go over everything else. Gender doesn't matter. Race, this does matter. Now, unless you're min-maxing, half elf, half elf, half orc, and human are the ones I would suggest. Human being the most recommended for me. Elf doesn't really get any, noticeable stat buffs, but they do get these, which are rather useful. Half orc, on the other hand, loses some stats, has a favorite class, which, as you can see, this is why I say multi-classing's a pain in the ass. You lose XP, and they don't really get as much bonuses. Humans, they get an extra feat and they get extra 4 skill points, plus 1 skill point at each level, which is really, really useful. Now, the other classes, dwarf, each class has its own little buffs. Now, there are a couple prestige classes, Dwarven Defender and Arcane Archer, which require you to be a dwarf for the Dwarven Defender or an elf for the Arcane Archer, or elf or half elf. And as you can see, elves have lower constitution but higher dexterity, means they go better with, rogues, rangers, do a finesse weapon fighter, that kind of thing. While dwarves are much better at, well, being tanky. Gnomes have some things as well, but you can't use large weapons, sadly. And halflings, I think the same thing, can't use large weapons either. But they get stat bonuses, which are kind of useful, kind of not useful. So basically, unless you're min-maxing and know what you're doing, don't pick any of these unless you have a plan. And one of these three is normally your best option. Portrait doesn't matter, just kind of wants your little icon. Where's my thing? There's my thing. Class, I already covered this. I'm just going to pick, cleric. Alignment. Okay, this basically is your character's alignment. This, for the most part, unless you are playing certain classes, does not matter. But if you're playing something like a barbarian, a druid, a paladin, you have to stay within a certain, you have to say neutral, somewhere along the neutral axis. And paladins have to say, I want to say lawful, maybe? Or am I thinking of, I may be thinking wrong. Now, this can change as you play a game depending on actions you take. You can go from being, lawful good to, lawful evil if you start taking a lot of evil actions, or lawful good to chaotic good if you start taking a lot of chaotic actions. It kind of, it's a living system which can change as you go. Sorry about that. Abilities, stats. So you have your 6 stats, and I'll go over these each in time. Each stat has, we're going to start with the combat stats. Strength and dexterity. Strength, melee weapons. This affects your attack rolls, and I want to say also your damage rolls. Dexterity is more for range, but it also if you have the finesse weapon or weapon finesse, you can use dexterity instead of strength for weapons, which kind of is useful. Constitution, basically it's just your hit points. This game always rolls your max amount of hit points you can have, and having more constitution increases that. Wisdom, intelligence, and charisma are your casting stats. Wisdom is for divine casters like cleric and druid. Intelligence is for your arcane casters, bard, and wizard. And charisma is for, I think, paladins as well, even though they're technically supposed to be a divine caster. I don't know. And sorcerers. Now, each stat also has other things they affect. Strength affects your carry weight. Dexterity increased. Every point of dexterity increases your natural AC, which is useful. It also gives, it can increase your natural AC if you, I think, but also helps you with your armor because light armor has a higher dexterity bonus, which means the higher dexterity, the more bonus you get out of it. Well, heavy armor has a higher base armor rating, but a lower dexterity bonus, so kind of a given trade. Constitution and dexterity both affect your saving rolls. Dexterity affects your reflex. Constitution affects your fortitude. Wisdom affects your insight, which is a passive ability which can show up during conversations, and it also helps with your will saves. Intelligence affects your skill points. I think it may act. Oh, and if it's also low, your character speaks funny, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I also think intelligence also affects some speech checks. Charisma basically affects how easy it is for you to persuade or lie to someone. So we're just gonna flat do that, and we're gonna go on to packages, which basically packages are set in stone ways for your character to level. I would if you don't know what you're doing, picking any of these is kind of useful. But if you want more customizability, you can go to configure package and do your own thing. Every stat, every one of your attributes affects one of these. Appraise makes it easier to buy or sell things. It is affected by intelligence, so the higher your intelligence, the higher base rank you get out of it. Bluff, charisma, and because I have a +2 in charisma, I have a 2 in my bluff. Concentration basically allows you to cast spells while you're in combat. Because when you cast a spell while you're in combat, you get attack of opportunity, which basically means they get a free hit on you. Thus, you receive it has a chance to cancel your spell. This negates that, makes it easier. The crafting skills, outside of crafting trap, weapons and armor, basically you can change how your armor looks. I think in some modules you can actually make weapons and armor. I've never come across that. So most of the times these are just used for changing the appearance of weapons, which is kind of fun. They're affected by intelligence. Craft trap is actually useful because you can actually make traps. And I have never used traps. If you're playing as a rogue and you're playing you're doing a solo run, these could potentially be incredibly useful. Just saying. Disable traps, as it says, basically when you disable a trap, you have to roll a dice check. Basically, roll in D&D terms, you roll a d20, and you have to beat the DC of the trap, and this takes whatever you get on the d20 and adds its modifier to that skill. Same thing with concentration and bluff and crafting trap. Discipline. This is for combat feats. It's kind of useful, kind of not. If you don't have any combat feats, it's useless. If you have combat feats, it's useful. Heal is for using healing kits and to heal you, but also helps for countering poisons, diseases. So if you're playing this game, I would definitely suggest always having points in heal and having plenty of healing kits on hand, because getting diseased or poisoned sucks. Hide is one of the stealth skills, which basically takes this and moves silently for your stealth. If you have one high, one other low, it kind of sucks. But as you can see, if you're being a stealthy person, you want to have both. They are controlled by dexterity. Intimidate. So intimidate, bluff, and persuasion down here are all the conversation skills. Each one of these allows you to basically pass a skill check to either get more information, get extra items, or avoid a fight. Intimidation also affects taunting, I think. I might be wrong. Listen allows you to detect hidden creatures. Lore, basically you can find unidentified items, and having this allows you to passively identify them and without this you have to spend 100 gold to identify items. Or you can use an identify spell if you have a caster, which is kind of nice. I've already explained silent moves. Move silently, so you can look through hands, kind of see. Open lock is one of the most important skills in this game to have access to in some way or shape or form. Some characters get the access to the spell knock, which kind of makes this a little useless. There's a rogue companion, or you could be your rogue yourself and have this, or you can cross class into this. Though you won't as be good at it as a rogue, but it'll make it a little bit easier. Parrying. This is a defensive thing. It allows you to block incoming attacks and counterattack. If you want to read this, go ahead. This is kind of useful, but I never really use it. I should probably use it more often. Perform is a bard thing. I don't know what it does. I've already talked about persuasion. But persuasion, intimidate, I think, yeah. Persuasion, intimidation, and bluff all use your charisma, so having a high charisma makes that kind of easier. Pickpocket. You can steal items off of characters. I don't know what this is used for, but okay. Writing. There is, yeah, right here. Premium module, Wyvern Crown of Cormier is the only time this is useful. I don't know what it does. Search, basically you can search for traps or hidden doors and things like that. Kind of useful. Set trap. Again, this is basically for setting traps because each trap has its own DC you have to pass to put it down. This is kind of useful. Spellcraft is a little useless, a little useful. It lets you detect spells that you are... Basically, this it allows you to know what spells are being cast at you. And if you can know what the spell is, you get an increase to your saving throws, which is actually kind of useful. Spot, again, is good for noticing hidden creatures or hidden things. Taunt. Oh, it taunts its own thing. It's a charisma. Basically, this lets you taunt an enemy to aggro onto you, which is kind of useful. Tumble is good for avoiding attack of opportunities. And use magic device to let you use scrolls and wands, which is normally a rogue thing. If you don't know what you're doing, I'd suggest hitting recommend, which will basically give you its own little spread. I will take 2 points out of parry and throw them into persuasion. Feats. Feats have a lot of different uses. You start with some, and you can look through these. Proficiencies basically allow you access to those things. Simple weapons, medium, light, or heavy armor, which is a cleric. You get to wield heavy armor and cast spells, which is really fun. But then you have also, all of these, which, depending on what you take, are really, really useful. 2-weapon fighting allows you to dual wield, because when you dual wield, you get a stat debuff, an attack debuff for your main and offhand weapon. This makes it a bit easier to do. Then this comes with ambidextrous and improved two-weapon fighting, which basically completely negates the debuff for fighting with 2 weapons and lets you become a lot stronger. Toughness, you get extra points. You can take this whenever, and it always works and gets you extra HP points. Each one of these, as you can see, has its own little effect. Then you have ones like this, which are your casting spells, are your meta magic feats, which basically let your spells do different things. This lets you get away with casting spells with armor. This is really mostly useful for arcane casters. Silence spell. You can cast it without your verbal components, which I think allows you, if you are silenced in some way, allows you to do it. Scribe Scroll lets you put spells either... Oh, yeah, okay. You can take any spell that you have and make a scroll of it, which is kind of useful for having access. Wizards will get a lot of use out of this. Resist poison and disease, kind of explanatory. They give you a bonus to your rolls against those. Power attack is it reduces your attack roll, but it gives you a bonus to your damage roll. And now you need this to get, cleave and everything else. Cleave, basically, when you kill an enemy, it lets you hit another enemy. Great Cleave, where is basically where you kill an enemy, you hit another enemy. If you kill that enemy, you hit another enemy. And if you can one-shot combo enemies, you can do really scary things. You can clear entire groups of enemies in like a single turn, just being like one great cleave. If you're like a weapons master, plus great cleave is so much fun. Point blank shot allows you to gets rid of the penalty for using a ranged weapon in melee combat. Which, if you're using bows, if you're using bows, thrown weapons, or slings or crossbows, is a must. Again, more saving throw stuff. Knockdown lets you knock an enemy prone, which makes them easier to hit. Sorry about that. Iron Will, saving throw, unarmed strikes. This is really only useful for monks. Initiative. I don't know what initiative does in this game. Normally, it helps you get faster turns of combat. Maybe it does the same thing here because this is technically a turn-based system. It's kind of weird. Fortitude, again, saving throw. Extra turning gives you extra turn uses of your unturned undead. Another meta magic, which basically allows you to increase the duration of spells. This increases your spellcraft and lore. This allows you to get a reduction in the penalty for casting in melee if you're defensive casting. I don't know what that means. And more skills and skill increases and stuff. Blind fighting is actually really useful because it allows you to hit while you're blinded or against invisible creatures, which you do actually come across fairly often. So this is actually something really useful if you want to grab it. I'm going to grab Martial and Spell Penetration. Oh, I forgot to cover Spell Penetration. Basically, Spell Penetration makes it easier for your spells to get through spell resistance. Spell Focus does kind of the same thing. It makes your DC save. The enemy has to roll higher to defend against your spells, and so on and so forth. Skill Focus lets you focus on a specific skill. Silver Palm. Yeah, as you can see, that's what all those do. As a cleric, I would definitely suggest grabbing Martial Weapon and Spell Penetration, because while you don't have many spells that affect enemies early, domains. Now, this is a unique thing for clerics. You have to pick a domain. Each domain gives you access to a different buff and different spells. This gives you lightning spells, animal death, destruction, if you want to kind of look through these. These are kind of easier to plan around. I definitely have my favorites, Fire and Sun being among them. Kind of if you want to look through these, go ahead and pause and look through them. Some are more defensive, some are more combative. But I definitely like grabbing, War and Magic are two of my favorites because you get access to some really strong abilities. And then you can customize your character, their body, their tattoos, their heads, their clothing. You get some really weird colors, like you get these really cool bright colors, and you get the weird metallic colors, which are, it's Ripley, that's cool. Then you can get like the fucking bright ass colors. These get really entertaining after a while to look at. You can make yourself like a construct and shit with all these. It's really, really fun. But then you make your character.
Attack, I say!
You make your character, and you have all these voices, and
I hear the battle calling. Attack!
Time to spill some blood!
there's a lot of these.
Now you shall taste my power!
Now see what a true warrior looks like.
My steel will strike true.
There's a lot of these to go through. My favorites, honestly, are
I want to see suffering. Attack! Kill them now!
Manic Psychotic and High Strung Evangelist are my favorites.
Attack! I say attack!
You can give yourself a little description, your name, your age. You can also do your deity, which has no effect on anything, strangely enough, in this game, which is hilarious. But that's about everything. I think I covered everything. Yep. This is your character record, which you can bring up at any time in the game by pressing C and look through. Oh, and your alignment titles is this. It kind of again changes with your alignment. But that is all. If you've enjoyed, please feel free to leave a like or a comment below. Lets me know you all want to see more of this. And a comment helps me with the algorithm. The next video will probably be talking about the modules and where you can start and what's good to start with, what's not good to start with, and how you can progress through them decently. And then after that, I will start doing videos on an actual playthrough. Until then, I do hope to see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.